My name is Daniel and you are watching Coin Help You. And today we're going to talk about Lincoln wheat cents that even if they're ungraded are still worth money. So in other words, you don't have to have these coins graded and you can still get above face value for them. So a lot of people would like to know, I don't grade coins, or I don't have graded coins, or I'm not going to send them off, but what's worth something? What Lincoln cents are worth something? Well, we're going to do the wheat cents now, and then we're going to do memorial cents in another video. So let's get to this. If you have Lincoln wheat cents and you're looking for, what their values are, I do recommend, like I said, the red book, but you can also come over to PCGS or NGC or Numis Media or mintstate.com, obviously. Or you can buy you a gray sheet or go over to the CDN, which is the Coin Dealer Newsletter. Their site, they also have a retail. But remember, most of those are for graded coins. Until you're under the 500 or sometimes under the, I think, couple $100 range. At that point, sometimes it's not worth sending off for grading. But Lincoln cents, a 1909 in G4, it is $4. A 1909 VDB in G4 is $4. You typically wouldn't send coins off to grading unless they're going to be worth closer to $100. But so you see all these coins that do have a grade, and you will see some of these in holders, like a 65. You'll see in the holders a VDB. Of course, your red's starting to become very valuable, and that's the thing. A lot of people see a clean coin, they think, oh, it's red. If you watch my video from yesterday, you will see some red-looking cents that are unk details, but they've been cleaned. So it is important to know the designations. A brown coin is basically just that. It looks brown. And we can look at an example of that. And we can look at an example of, what a red-brown looks like. And also what a red looks like. It's kind of hard to determine sometimes. Sometimes you'll look at a coin and this one here's, got some color to it, but it would be considered brown. You'll see coins in holders that are labeled red that have toned and they'll look a little red-brown. Sometimes you'll see that too, so it gets kind of confusing. So this coin has color, but it was considered brown. Usually they're just a flat brown. They don't have any color to them at all. Then you have this one here, this red-brown. It's another confusing thing. This coin's got some nice color to it, okay? And to me, I wouldn't typically call this red-brown. And then you have the red, which is no color, no toning, and it's just the original look to it. Now, it might have a little bit of a tone from when it comes from the mint, but in this instance, you can see it's a really nice red coin. Obviously, they have tabs here, so you can look at the brown if you like. And here's the brown again, and here's the red-brown. And it just has a little more orange is what you're really looking for. It's not really red so much as kind of an orange collar. So we covered that. Let's go on down and look at some more dates. And what you're looking for is the G4 and the F12 column. If you have a double die reverse for a 1909 VDB, obviously it's worth something and not graded. You also have the 1909S and of course the 1909S over S, horizontal S actually. And we've covered this before. And like I said, you find one of these coins, it does not have to be graded to have the value. You can sell this coin raw and still get money out of it. Some of these varieties, are well known. Of course, the 1909S VDB, that goes without saying. You have to look out for fakes, though, because there's a lot of fakes out there. And I have guides and I have a video that will show you how to identify this. But the basic thing is you want to be careful. There's a lot of these that are on Etsy. There's a lot of these that are on AliExpress. There's all kinds of fakes you want to watch. So here you have a 1910, even a 1910 in brown, showing $3 in G4. A 10S. Your S mint marks in 10, 12, and 13 are worth a little bit more. Also the 1911, you're talking about, some teens that are worth a little bit more. It is kind of difficult if they don't have a mint mark for the teens to sell them for more money. Then, like you said, the $2 here, you probably be difficult to get that out of the coin. But at least it's worth more than face value. You can always put it back. You can put them in rolls. And you get those tubes and put them in those tubes and collect them. Here's 11D worth a little bit more, 11S, and all these, like 11S would be considered a semi-key date. Here's the 12. So as you can see, your teens, even in the lower grades, are worth putting back. Here's a 12D, 12S, a 13 even. a dollar. I mean, it's you can get a dollar out of them, but like I said, PCGS tries to say these are graded values, but still, yeah, sometimes you can get close to this out of those coins, like this one here, 13S. It may say $15 in G4. I may only be able to sell it for 8 or 6, but you get the picture. So 14, and then 1914D. That's a nice one if you can get that. There's a lot of fakes of that coin. A lot of people try to alter the 44 and make it into a 1. Also, this coin will not have the VDB at the bottom of the shoulder there next to the rim, because they did not put the VDB back on until 1918. Okay, so that's an important thing. If you've got a coin that looks like a 14D and it has a VDB there, then you know it's not authentic. And here's the 14S is another one. Like I said, this is just kind of easy. You can just scroll down through, look at a price guide, and say, oh, I've got this penny, I've got this date, this mint. You can kind of label it. You maybe even put on the top of it, maybe the range. Let's say you've got a G4 in your tube, and you also have, let's say, maybe a very fine. Well, you can put that on top of your tube on a little piece of paper and tape it on there, and then put the little value on it. Then you kind of have a reference on how much it's worth. And, keep them in tubes. Sometimes it's better than keep them in the folders, because the folders can tone them up a little bit and they pop out and they fall out and things like that. I kind of like the tube idea. Now, you can't display them, you can't just flip through them, but maybe, put a few of them, maybe put one example in an album and then put the rest of them in a tube. Then you have the 15D. Here's a 15S and a 1916. So you see some of your teens have a little bit of a value, but like I said, it says $1 here. And, it's hard to get $1 out of a 1917. I'm not saying it's not worth $1, but you're more than likely going to be able to buy some of these in rolls for maybe 30 cents a piece, 50 cents a piece, something like that. Then you have a 17. There's a double die verse. Obviously, your varieties are going to be worth something. You can come over here to PCGS, and you can, like I showed you before, you can click on this link, and we'll open it up for you so you can see. And you have an example of what I got a little picture over here. We'll take a look at that. You can see it's... Now, not all double dies look like this, okay? And a lot of people look at this and they think it's not flat. It kind of looks like it based off of the angle, but it's just the direction of the rotation whenever it was die was re-squeezed, and they did a two squeeze method back then. So that's what happened on these. So anyway, getting back to the price guide. So as we're looking down through, nothing really sticks out too much. I mean, if you got a mint mark, they're typically worth a little bit more, but not much. In the 20S, and now we're in the 20s. Now there's some 20s that are worth a little bit. 21S, the 22D is always good. The 22 no D. There's different versions of this, okay? Different dies, I should say, die pairs. The one that you're looking for will have a weak 2 and a very strong reverse. That's your die pair 2. That's the one that's worth this much money. Not all, like a weak D is worth a little bit, but you want to be careful, because you don't want to buy one that's not the die pair 2, and here you're paying $450 and it's not. These here you can pretty much get graded values almost out of the raw coins, the ungraded coins. And like I said, some of these are worth some money too. You got $8 on a 23S. I mean, it's something you can look for. Everybody's looking for the 14D and the 09S and the 1922 OD, but a lot of people kind of overlook some of these here in the 20s, like the 23S or the 24D, 24S. I mean, they've got a little bit of a premium on the 25D. That's not bad. I mean, $4 for a cent. A lot of people overlook them, but you can scroll and see each one of these. And the 26S is another one, $10. Then look in the 30s. There is some 30s that are worth a little bit, but not very many. You start to get into the point where you have to find varieties or high grades. You can see the higher grades, but we're looking at ungraded coins here. So 31S, 31D's got a little bit of a value to it. The 32's worth a couple bucks. The 33D, that's an overlooked one. Also, you go down to the 36, $2, and like I said, you can find a lot of 36. I can't tell you're going to get $2 out of your 36. You're going to go to a dealer and say, give me $1 for my penny. Probably not going to do it. But if you get a decent example that's not too beat up or cleaned or, whatever, you might be able to get you 50 cents out of it, or $1 or something like that. Then you have the 36 double die. Now there's different die pairs for this as well. You want to make sure you identify it. This is a verse. This is the type 1. You want to do some research on this. Coneca Variety Vista is a good place to do research. Coppercoins.com is a good place to do research, and so is Wexler's DoubleDie.com. You want to make sure you identify the correct one, because there's more than one for the 1936, as there are for a lot of double dies. So you want to know what you're looking for. Now we're getting into the point where it has to be uncirculated to be worth anything until you get to a 41 double die verse. But you can see the values are lacking in the lower grades. So you have the 42, there's the RPM, which is a repunch mint mark. Here is the S over S. As you can see, it's worth a little bit in the lower grades, but you're starting to get into coins that need to be graded to have a value. Here's another one, a 44 D over S. It's another one that's misidentified so many times. You really need to look at these coins. You need to study them out, and they have to almost look exactly like this. Damage, once you see damage, it's very difficult, but you're looking for, see the remainder of the S, that's what you want to look for. And there's a little bit on the inside here, a little bit of the, so you can kind of trace it. So, you know, like I said, if you think you have one, you can always post it in our Coin Help community. And getting back to our chart here, as you can see, we can scroll down, and it's pretty much from here on out, your Lincoln wheat cents are going to have to be some type of repunch mint mark or a double die to have a value ungraded. Because once you start seeing values like this in 60, yeah, you know, it's worth something if you can find it uncirculated, obviously, but you're really getting into the point where it needs to be graded. Here's a 1955 double die verse. This is one of the greats, and it's most certainly worth a lot of money, ungraded. Most of them did not circulate, so you're not going to find very many of them in lower than the extra fine 40 grade, if at all. And like I said, you know, here we are at the end. 1958 ends the series for the Lincoln Wheats. And I know a lot of people see this 58 double die verse. I'm here to tell you there's only 3 of them known, and we can take a look at it real fast for everybody to understand that it has to look like this. It can't almost look like this. Do you see how much of a spread there is on that Liberty and In God We Trust? There's just not going to be any mistaking this coin for any other double die. It has to look like this one, or it is not the money coin. It's just that simple. You can't get around that. It can't be almost or close to it, or the date can't have something on. I mean, it doesn't work that way. It has to look like this coin. So there you have it. There are the Lincoln wheat cents that are worth money, even though they're not graded. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and tell me in the comments that you like this video, because I'd like to do a series of these. I could do the memorial cents next. So please hit the comments down there for me, and have a great day.